Now we move on to Russia and Iran. Russia's top diplomat has warned that any new United States strike on Iran could carry serious consequences, saying escalation would risk undoing recent regional diplomatic gains and further heighten the tension across the Middle East. These comments made by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov came after US and Iranian negotiators met this week to try to avert a mounting crisis over Tehran's nuclear program. Moreover, Lavrov has also noted that previous strikes on Iranian nuclear sites had posed risks of a nuclear incident. That's why he has urged all parties to seek a diplomatic solution that respects Iran's right to pursue peaceful nuclear activities. Reports say that US officials in Geneva are now expecting Iran to submit a written proposal on how to resolve outstanding issues on the coming weeks. Moreover, sources say that U.S. national security advisors have been told that all American military forces deployed to the Middle East region should be in position by mid-March. Now we move on and we welcome former Ambassador KP Fabian from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Fabian, for joining us, Ambassador Fabian, for joining us again. Good to see you. Now, looking at Iran and US's tension and also the warnings that has come in from Russia, how alert should we stay about these statements? And also, I think that it's not going to only affect the Middle East region, like Lavrov has said. It's going to be affecting Asia as well. It's going to be affecting India as well. What's your take?
Well, obviously, if President Trump attacks Iran, he will be setting fire to the whole region. That includes Iran and Israel and the GCC. And don't forget that in the GCC, we have 9 million Indians. So its implications are apocalyptic. Now, I'm glad that Foreign Minister Lavrov has spoken up. And also, don't forget that Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and also Egypt, which is not in the Gulf region, have told President Trump not to do it. But we do not know what he will do. He is sending his second aircraft carrier there, which will take another 2 or 3 weeks to reach there. And meanwhile, of course, negotiations are going on. As I see it, there are 1 or 2 scenarios possible. One is that Trump agrees to revoke the sanctions based on Iran's limiting the enrichment and subjecting itself to total inspection by the IAEA, because Trump is tempted by the business opportunities, Second is that Iran concedes more than that. It concedes to, limiting its missile capabilities and not assisting the so-called, I repeat the word, so-called proxies. And Trump, again, revokes the sanctions and sees the business opportunities, because Iran can, look at post-Trump, after 3 years, it can look at its options. So that is also a scenario. But the third is, as I said, Trump makes the wrong decision to attack, and that will set on fire the whole region. Let us hope the third will not happen.
Yes, indeed, we will be hoping that. But both of these sides are very rock hard or solid on their stance, and they have. It's been extremely difficult for them to be negotiating in moving their stances. So, how cornered do you think is Iran right now? We saw a lot of bold statements coming in from Iran, from their leader Ali Khamenei. And do you think this was his bold statements was more for a domestic audience or international audience?
Well, statements are meant for both, and in the case of a country like Iran in serious difficulties, it is certainly meant more for the domestic audience. But the best way out, I'm not suggesting that President Trump will agree to it. the best way out will be to have a regional conference on security of the region, a conference that is attended to also by Israel, and there Iran might agree to limiting its missile capabilities. You know, if it can be reassured of its own security. But that sort of imaginative, creative, original thinking, I do not know whether President Trump has any interest in it.
Right. And how do you think, if this today we saw statements coming in from the spokesperson Caroline Levitt as well, that U.S. Armada is ready, steady, like President Trump said a few days ago as well. So how do you analyze this diplomacy over here? Do you think this pressure overall, is it working for Iran?
Well, President Trump's style or policy is to threaten publicly and go on threatening publicly, so he believes that's the best way to bargain. He is essentially a real estate tycoon now. And I do not know whether it will work in the case of Iran. I have serious doubts about it.
And last but not least, some Arab countries have, Ambassador Fabian, some Arab countries have declined to let U.S. use their airspace for these attacks in case of the third scenario you mentioned earlier in our discussion. So where will U.S. use then?
No, the U.S., if it has got two aircraft carriers, then it may not need to use its bases in Qatar, UAE, and elsewhere. But then don't forget, Iran has made it very clear, should there be an attack from the United States, it doesn't matter whether it comes from the aircraft carriers or otherwise. All targets, U.S. bases in the region and Israel will be in danger.
We will be eyeing that. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fabian, for sharing that insight. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, New Mexico's Department of Justice is investigating